And speaking of learning, I think one thing when you mentioned this earlier about how when you're kind of brought in as a contractor, you're usually brought in to like work on a specifically scoped project and you're kind of here to execute. And maybe there's, they hire different people for different things, but typically that's the way that I've seen like contractors brought in. How do you kind of transition out of this, I don't know, this approach towards software engineering where you're here to execute into more of the typically more seen as a senior engineer kind of responsibilities where you're doing more of the planning and designing and scoping, which I typically I don't think are given as responsibilities to contractors.
Right. That's usually true. As you said, you have very specific scope, and that's what you're asked to do. But I think most of the time, nobody's gonna say no if you go outside of that scope. Nobody's gonna say, "Oh, there's something broken here. Nobody can fix it right now. Neither can you because this is your scope." Nobody's gonna deny you that opportunity. So I think what I did actually is that I looked for opportunities. I looked for gaps. I tried to understand from people I was working with, like what are some of the challenges you're facing? What are some of the pain points? What are the things that you're not able to do? Let me see how I can help you. So oftentimes it was really trying to go above and beyond. It was trying to see how else could I be helpful. And so for example, early on in that role at Innovision, we we had no performance monitoring on our pages. So we were building and redesigning all these websites across different localities for Univision. They had a number of radio stations and their primary kind of local TV channels. But we had no idea about, how those pages were performing. And as a result, we didn't know what the opportunity was to, drive even more engagement. We all know how important it is, like that, page loads within a certain time frame, and you have the ability to interact within a certain time frame. That's so important to making people stay. So I saw that as an opportunity. Like my manager had said, "Hey, it'd be great if we could do this." And I said, "Oh, let me own it. Let me do it." And I started to research like what tools are available to do this type of performance monitoring. I found one. I worked with someone who was responsible for kind of like just vendor contracting and so on. And we were able to get a plan, and I started to use the tool and create reports. And I was like, here's a report, like here's how our pages are doing from a performance standpoint, just using like, page load as a metric, page load time as a metric. And he was just like, "Oh, wow, this is awesome. I want you to work on producing like a more comprehensive report, and I'm going to send it to the CEO of the digital division every month so that he sees like how our pages are doing. And then we can report back on overall trend as we like take certain measures to improve page load time." And so opportunities like that are always going to be available. Every company has problems, more problems than they can resolve, they can take on. And so it's about looking for those and and then, finding a way to own them if you can.
If you enjoyed this clip, make sure you watch the entire video, which has a lot more content just like this. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any of our episodes where we talk to leaders in the tech industry, from software engineers to product managers to engineering managers, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and also click the notification bell.